10 years of USPTO patent insider experience. So I was the guy that was stamping the patents inside the patent office for 10 years. I said, man, it's really great to come out and help inventors, startups, companies get their inventions through this process, because it is a process. If you don't know the process, you don't know the inside game of the process, it can mess you up. So that's what I'm here to do, give you that expertise. Right now we're talking about the 4 fundamental steps of the patent process. We talked about the first 2. We've been talking about the third one for a couple of videos now. This is my last video on the third part of the process, and then we get to the last part. And then again, I want you to look in the description, look at the links. I'll have a link to how you can get in touch with me, ask me questions. But basically, the whole point of this is to give you information. I really don't want to see inventors, startups get tripped up on this process. If you don't know the process, you can really make some very, very just devastating mistakes when it comes to your intellectual property. And this can hurt the valuation of your company. You might not be able to get a patent because of some mistakes you can make early on. So it's very important to have the right tools and information. Definitely got to have the information. So we're talking about the third part of the 4 fundamental steps of the patent process. Step number 3 is dealing with a non-provisional patent application or utility application. We talked about the initial filing. We talked about the examination and patent prosecution process. We're going to kind of wrap up in this video, wrap up the patent prosecution process and what can happen in that process. And then in the next video, we'll tell you about the number 4. So basically, we talked about what happened. You've submitted your application, you got something back, you worked with your practitioner, you had an interview, you sent something back to the examiner, which is called a response. The examiner can then send you what's called another office action. If he, or she decides that it's, your argument's a no-go, they're going to give you what's called a final rejection. A final rejection means I know it sounds like it's the end of the world. It just means this is the end of this round of prosecution. So when you file your initial non-provisional patent application, you pay a filing fee, you pay examination fee, you pay for these things, and basically the office honors those fees by doing these 2 rounds of prosecution, which is called a first round, a first office action, and then a second office action, which is the first one's usually non-final, the second one is final. So when it's final, that means they don't agree with you. You have to have a more convincing argument or do a more thorough amendment to kind of acquiesce to their arguments. It's a dance you have to kind of do back and forth, kind of see what's happening. And so basically at this point, a couple of things can happen. You can come to your practitioner again. You can discuss with them your strategy. If you have the budget for it, then you can, because every time you engage with each step of this process, you're engaging the practitioner for that process. And so you want to make sure that you kind of look at it. No practitioner can guarantee that this process, how long it's going to go. There are a lot of factors. But really, in the end of the day, it's going to be the viability and novelty of your actual idea. The quality of your practitioner is a close second, or probably on par with the novelty of your idea. If you have a good idea, you have a good practitioner, you have a good chance. If you have a good idea and a bad practitioner, not a good chance. If you have a great practitioner but a bad idea, not really a good chance. So and then it's also, the examiner that you get, what's the examiner's level of experience, what type of technology it is. Some technologies have a higher threshold basically for getting a patent, like a software patent or a business method patent. These categories of patents have a really high failure rate in terms of getting through. So these are things you need to know. You can look at the USPTO website. I'll probably put a link in the description below so you can kind of see those numbers. Those are set by the patent office to give you real life numbers of what they're actually doing. And so this is how you can kind of get that information and make your own assessment of what your strategy should be.